I'm conquering this fear, I'm busting through the ceiling. I'm following your lead, I'm following this feeling.
Hey guys, welcome back to Enlightened Turtle. It's your host Kev here. So today I'm going to do a quick little reading out of this book. It is called The Cloud of Unknowing. So it's an old book, and as you can see it's well used, and I paid £3.99 from the charity shop, which was a bargain, to be honest. I actually had a little look around online, and the book was available on eBay about a year ago. I think it was for like £20 odd, so I'm already quids in. I mean, I've got no intention of selling it. Finding little rare books like this it's an absolute gem. Obviously Ross Broadstock, he was the first person I actually ever seen talk about it, to be fair, and Wilson and Blackie are obviously well known for going around the old antiquarian shops in like Wales and places like that, and finding all these king's lists and other bits and bobs that, you know, would have been lost to time if the wrong person would have got the hands on them. But yeah, so I'm just going to do a quick little reading from chapter 9, and it's going to be talking about like virtues. And you know, you've got some more of the negative virtues, you know, like greed, vanity, lust, you know, all these other different negative connotative virtues, and it moves through, and then it ends on a really good note. And so I'm not going to read the whole chapter because it's written in like Middle English, so there's certain parts where it just doesn't sound right. And actually there's a book here, if you bear with me really briefly, I'll just show you this book as well. Now this book is by Judeo-Christian, and it wasn't actually that expensive, to be honest. I think I got it online for about a tenner, 15 quid. And some of the stuff that gets discussed in this book, this is book 1 by the way, so this is not origins, but this is Theodorus going back into the age of heroes and all that kind of stuff. And I had no intentions of reading this, to be honest, but I'll read you a line and then I'll let you see it on the screen. The second Hercules in Crete was born, nobly bruited bothy, for his princely courage and martial feats of war, which ordained of his first enunciation the Iostis of Aresti and Didas of armies to be enraved, to be envred at Uri luster of the great Solympy. So, and the fest of Iupiter on Olympus. So don't forget the name, the letter J, for example, is a modern phonetic iteration. The letter J before 1600 is one I've seen, apparently didn't exist. So this book was rewritten around the 1500s, I believe it was, and it's around about a 1500s version of Diodorus Siculus, which obviously is going back to, well, it's going back over 1,000 years, 2,000 years. This book is absolutely loaded with information, and when I've read other parts online of a later version, there's actually little bits that are different, nuances that are easy to overlook, but that's why you've got to find these older books. Back to the original sin, because we did touch on it a little bit in the previous video, and like I say, I didn't really want to go too deep into it, so I'm just going to end by reading this chapter 9. So here we go. chapter 12 it is. Apologies, by the way, I was on the wrong page. So, as I say, it walks you through from the lesser quality virtues, the more negative virtues, the less desirable by society, if you will, a progressive and unifying society anyway. So, and then he kind of comes into this last phase now. The virtue is naught else but an ordered and measured affection, plainly directed unto God himself. For why? He, in himself, is the clear cause of all virtues, insomuch that if any man be stirred to any virtue by any other cause mingled with him, ye though he be the chief, yet that virtue is then imperfect. As thus, for example, may be seen in one virtue or two instead of all the others, and well may these two virtues be meekness and charity. For those who might get these two clearly have needeth of no more, for why? He hath it all. So, again, there, meekness and charity. What's meekness? I don't know, I don't have the definition off the top of my head, but from what I understand, meekness is more of a, you're not controlling, you're not trying to always expand and grow in terms of the poorer virtues. So like I say, greed, you might greed for more wealth. Lust, you might lust for more attention, for more love and adulation. They're the negative connotations, and though you may then say like you've got like lust, but then you're lusting for love. Love may be a more high quality virtue than say lust. But then some people would be like, well, he's lusting after love, so you'd be like, well, he's lusting after something that's a good virtue. Well, in actual fact, because you'd be rooted in the lust for the love, you've actually tainted the virtue of the love. Now, these, I'm just using two virtues there, interchangeable and synonymous.
Going through all these elaborate stories of Krishna's life is so that you perceive him in the right context. Just take this, that you brought up this meek thing now. One aspect where he sort of more substantiated this aspect of being meek is if somebody slaps you on one cheek, show him the other cheek. You are definitely not capable of that. How many of you are capable of this? That if you're slapped on one cheek, you'll show the other. Genuinely, how many of you are capable of this in your life? Nobody? You are? We know you. So, you're not capable of that. He was talking to his closest disciples when he was talking about sending them out to spread his message. He said, when you go out with this new message, if people come and slap you on one cheek, show the other. But that's not the teaching for all of you. Can you live by those guidelines? Before we consecrated the Dhyanalinga, I used to tell the brahmacharis, if you go outside, if somebody spits on your face, with a big smile, wipe it and come back. Don't do anything else. But now, in the last 3-4 years, I'm telling them, if somebody talks nonsense, you give it to him properly. Not because my perception of world has changed, my role in the world has changed. My perception of world has not changed in any way, but my role in the world has changed. So at that time, I told them, if somebody spits on your face, show them a happy face, wipe it and come back. Now I tell them, you stand up, you stand your ground and tell them what you have to tell them. don't take any shit from anybody. Is this contradictory? It is not contradictory, just acting as the situations demand to make yourself most effective in the conditions you're living in right now.
And the second one was not meekness but charity. And obviously, if you're able to give charitable contributions, whatever that may be, with your time, your energy, advice, all these things, then you already situated high above all them other lower virtues. And in charity alone, and don't forget, it's called the cloud of unknowing, but it's basically, it's almost like a worship manual. Now, not that I do much worship, and I'm not too sure all that many people do anymore, if I'm being honest. I do know some people who still go to church and things like that, but not many people go to the altars or go to church every Sunday and things like that. The numbers are dwindling pretty rapidly, and probably down to the mentality of the church as much as anything else, as well as the progressive sciences of the world. However, if you can be charitable and you can not look to obtain anything that's, I don't even want to say outside your means, because ambition is a good virtue. Obviously, if you become obsessively ambitious, then you're merging obsessiveness with ambition. So then you're taking the ambition. Yeah, long story short, it was the original sin, even in concepts by philosophers in these older books and things like that. The idea of that sin and that it comes from yourself. You're not born with the virtues. We all have tendencies when we're born, but it's down to you to control the mind, control your discipline, control your rationality, as well as your piety, your spirituality, and your belief systems. You can't just go running around making claims that whatever you believe is to be true, and then start saying, oh, it's in the name of the Bible, because then you're just taking anything that's positive in the Bible, for example. It's just a little reading there, because I kind of wanted to expand on the original sin, like I say, and the more I thought about it, and I had a chat with someone on Sunday, we'd had a few beers, but we had a good little chat, and we kind of agreed upon the premise that yes, original sin is not something that you were born with. It's not something that you should have to carry straight away. It's almost like an orphan child coming to the cognitive age, and all his life, all he's being told is you're just an orphan. You're nobody. You're nothing. That kid's gonna grow up with that social conditioning of, I need to be this or I need to be that. Well, that original sin, it kind of placed people in two camps. You either went straight for the full spiritual end of the spectrum, where you'd be like, I wanna counteract that original sin. Jesus sacrificed his life for me, say, and I'm gonna spend the rest of my life trying to make amends for that original sin. And then you've got another end of the spectrum, which is, we were born into sin. We were born into a world capable of doing great good and great evil, but none of it's subjective, if that makes sense. Like, if someone, almost like the mentality of, if someone was going to do it, it's better that I do it than that person. And that then led to other things bleeding in: fear, insecurity, irrational thought, emotionality, disconnectedness from the other elements of what that original sin entailed. So it became a case of pure dogma, and it was used, as I say, as like a framework, a structure that kept people in a state of dystopia.
Was raised is, what does Judaism say about the significance of what Christianity terms the original sin, namely the sin of Adam and Eve, eating from the fruit of the tree of knowledge in contravention of God's divine command. Number one, although the Christian idea is very, very different than the Jewish idea, it is totally based on a concept that is at least analogous in Judaism. And we, in fact, do believe that the original sin had a cosmic repercussions. It was an extremely significant event. Adam and Eve were created as perfect beings who were totally connected to God. And the sin created an unbridgeable distance, a chasm, a separation. So far, we and the Christians are walking on the same path. But at this point, we now differ and we now switch directions. Christianity sees original sin as an irrevocable, unchangeable blight on the holiness of the human soul, creating an impossibility of connecting to God other than faith in Jesus, etc. Judaism teaches it in a very, very different way. We believe that the essence of man's divine soul remains untainted. It remains holy. It remains unified with God. It remains radiant. What the sin introduced was kind of a secondary soul that the Tanya and the books of Kabbalah refer to as the animal soul, in which our holy soul strives to be with God, but we introduced into ourselves negative drives of egotism, selfishness, hedonism, that are kind of pulling us away, imprisoning us, making it very, very difficult to achieve the communion that the holy, godly soul still desires to achieve. Instead of looking at man as hopelessly irredeemable, Judaism has a very, very hopeful vision, because it basically says, listen, the holiness that you were born with, the holiness that was put into Adam, is still there. There is a drive that can be pulling you away. But you have the freedom, you have the capacity to liberate yourself from that drive and achieve holiness and perfection and communion with God. And if God gave us the challenge, God also gave us the wherewithal to be able to surmount that challenge. So I think the fundamental difference is that Christianity views original sin as a taint on the spiritual essence of man. We regard original sin as creating a tension, an opposition, and a force that we have to overcome. But the power of the godly soul can still overcome it.
How could you ever... Because the thing is, again, you know, we're talking about spiritual books here and stuff like that. This is a philosophical take on religion and the not knowing all the elements. Why should you? Why shouldn't you? Is religion right for you? Not so much religion, but I believe in a higher power. Is that right for you? Because at the end of the day, you have to place that divinity in the forefront, because it's almost like you know, having a higher power that supersedes your own thoughts, wants and ideas can keep you on a straight and narrow. This is a whole theological, I suppose, debate that I'm kind of opening there, where you've got, like, you don't need to be spiritual or religious, pious even, to be a good person. You know, you can be a purely rational person who believes in no spiritualism at all, and you can still be a good person. But they're just the virtues that that person chose to maintain. And again, like I say, I think it was Jordan Peterson and Sam Harris have done some interesting debates regarding the whole do you need religion to be a good person kind of aspect and have those higher morals and virtues. And as I just said, no, you don't need to be that. However, Jordan Peterson nailed it with one of the things he said. And like I say, I used to be an atheist. I'm a believer in God now. I don't believe in all the dogmas and all the attachments that come with institutionalized religions. I find it much to the same as institutionalized educations and political institutions. You know, they're all kind of tentacles on the same beast of this ever advancing world, to be honest. But Jordan Peterson, he nails it in one quick sentence. He says he doesn't know if God exists, but he acts as if he does. And in doing so, there's a higher energy, there's a higher moral code, there's a higher plane of virtues that you aim to attain, which kind of like ties into that original sin again, of where you're like, well, if Jesus, again, you don't have to believe this is philosophical principles. If Jesus was prepared to die on the cross for our sins, then why I should be prepared to live the life that was kind of commanded of me to do so. Again, the commandments, these are theological talking points, and they reach across all the different cultures, all different intersecting traditions, ideologies, and the core values tend to be the same. Love thy neighbour, do charity, blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the world. You know, they're loaded phrases. Again, that meek, the meek, going back to the meeks, again, it's good to be ambitious, it's good to want to go out there and change the world, have influence on the world for positive reasons. But once your ambitions, as I say, become you start getting driven for that one goal, that one materialist goal of, maybe it's wealth, as I say, maybe it's a bigger house. If you get to that goal and you're not satisfied and you keep going, then you've got what you called in this book, I'm glad it's come around full circle, the cloud of unknowing, because you're operating in almost like a non-sentient capacity. You can't check your own morals and virtues. You can't check your own original sin, if that makes sense. So you could be going out there and using your ambition and driving away and ripping through a tale of destruction all around you without even realising it. Compassion, gratitude. I wouldn't know if gratitude's a virtue, but it's definitely something good to have. And yeah, like I say, I'll probably do a couple more readings on a few more books, because I've just ordered a few books that are really interesting to me, and as I've been working my way through a few of these heavier books, like your Wilsons and Blacketts and Lawrence Waddles and people's like that, it's taken a bit of time, like I say, to digest this information. And the next big video is going to be regarding the Druids and their potential connection to an ancient order of Britain that may or may not have been Christian. But yeah, we've got that to look forward to. Excuse me. And like I say, I've got a couple of readings I really want to sit down and do. Oh, excuse me. And then I've got something really cool coming up in about 4 weeks time. It's getting closer and closer. I haven't said nothing, I've kept it quiet, and I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that when I get there, there's stuff I can do. So yeah, I'll leave that one there. Like I say, thanks for anyone who stopped by. I know that last video was super long, too long. I had intentions of splitting it in two, to be honest. As I started getting through it, I'd done a word count on there, and it was around, the last I seen was about 30,000 words, and I made several more additions to the notes after that, so it was quite long. And in hindsight, like, I got fatigued halfway through it, which is fine, you know, but I was also in a rush as well, so the quality was severely compromised. But like I say, I've got many expansions to do on that last video, as well as add more visuals and do other bits and bobs and that. But it's all in good time. So thanks to anyone who stopped by. Hope you all have a good week, and I'll catch you next video. Peace.